Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com. In today's podcast, I wanted to discuss some news from last week about KPMG. And as you know, there's multiple investigations into KPMG. And one of them was with regards to 2014 review of KPMG with regards to a Regenesis audit. So this is 8 years after that, and KPMG has settled with the FRC, but it's the settlement right now is between the FRC and a partner of KPMG, and he's going to be sanctioned from the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales for 3 years, and KPMG is also going to be reprimanded, but that's going to be determined later. And there's a few things that came out from this, but first let's just go over the sanctions. So Stuart Smith is the partner. He's going to be excluded from the chartered accountants for 3 years. He'll pay a fine of £150,000, and he'll have to do that no later than 28 days after this. And basically what they said is that he misled them as they were going over their review and as they were conducting their quality review of the Regenesis audit. And that's why he's being sanctioned for so long. He is a partner. And another thing they determined is he was acting in his employment at KPMG during all times of this review. And during that, he willingly misled them. And they say that there's not really more that they're going to do, but I think it's just pretty crazy how easily they let these people off. I mean, the FRC talks a lot, but then they let these people off the hook pretty easily, in my view. I understand this probably has pretty bad effects on the person's career, but I think if they're out, if you're a partner, an accountant, and you're misleading your regulator, I mean, that's pretty much as bad as it gets, because you have all these people suing accounting firms and they're trying to figure out how to stop this. But meanwhile, you let these guys off the hook. And these type of people that mislead regulators when they come in and regulate. And it's just, to me, it's rampant, and it happens again. And it's really shown by how many of these things are happening with KPMG, with the FRC. But another interesting thing that came out about here is that through these tribunals of the FRC, the partners have been trying to throw staff people under the bus. The staff people have been trying to throw partners and other staff people under the bus. And one of the things that came out is that a staff person said that the work was relentless and intense when they were dealing with this review from the regulators. They had to work overtime over the weekends to deal with responding to regulators, and that's how they got wrapped up in this. And we went into a little bit of that last week, where people were saying that they were being taken advantage of and they were just a cog in the wheel. And I don't know if that's effective, because that's basically the job at the Big Four accounting firms of just relentless work. You're going to have to work all the time. And the only thing I see coming out of this is just more training, more checklists for people to complete. But also, just as an accountant, you can't use being overworked as a reason to dismiss being ethical. Just as for your own good, and just as the future of accounting. And I know all of us are worried about ourselves, but people can't just keep on doing this. And I think the Big Four accounting firms do have responsibility as well, but especially the partners. And that's why I guess I'm wrapping these two news stories up in this one thing, is that you have to reprimand these partners and these firms severely so that they don't let this continue to happen. Because here the partner's getting let off with to me, is a small fine for him based on the payouts that we've discussed, based on the payouts of partners that we've discussed in this podcast before. And then the accounting firm, I'm sure, will just be let off with a few $1 million fine. And to me, that's not enough. And it should really stop there, as far as it should be the partners getting reprimanded, and it should be the executives at KPMG and the firms themselves. Like this way, the KPMG UK firm should be reprimanded extremely severely and fined until there has to be culpability, and there can be no ability for a partner to do this. What should happen is if something's missed, the partners should reach out to other partners and let them know that they missed something, and then they should find a way to address it and bring it up right away and try to fix it, versus trying to cover it up and telling their staff people to cover it up, because staff people just have to take endless trainings that tell them to be ethical, to see something, do something, and basically everything falls on the staff people. If a partner wants to do something incorrectly, it should not be up to the staff people to fix that. It should be up to partners watching other partners. And I mean, that's the whole purpose of internal quality reviews at the Big Four accounting firms, but those don't always work. That's why I'm saying you have to punish at the executive level. And then that way there's no continuing of this unethical behavior. And another thing that can be done that I think the FRC can do is they need to obtain more information of KPMG's audit fees, discussions about audit fees, discussions about utilization, discussions about bonuses, things like that, because that's what's affecting all of this. There's this pressure to meet hours, to meet fees, to meet margin. And so what people do is they cut corners. And I think that's probably what the staff person means by their work is relentless. Means they probably had, or I think what they're trying to say, and they didn't really end up saying it well, is that you have 1 million clients and they can't really focus on one audit well enough to do it well enough. Now, that doesn't explain why they would have misled reviewers during a review. What it would explain is why people don't do enough audit work during an audit, because you're juggling too many things and you're trying to meet a client deadline. And I think that's the other thing too that the FRC can look into is client deadlines. When clients provide the information and how quick the turnaround has to be, because with that information they can see that people don't have enough time to audit. KPMG and these other Big Four accounting firms are trying to meet margin goals, and they're just not doing it. They're not getting enough audit evidence in the time needed. There's just a lot that has to be done, and the FRC and other regulators have to begin to push back on the Big Four accounting firms' business model if they want this to get corrected. Because the way the business model is right now, this is going to happen over and over, just because Big Four accounting firms are just going to spend the least amount of hours possible, and it's going to get smaller and smaller every year. And there's the chance of them missing things increases the longer a firm audits a company. And I mean, that's why they have the mandatory audit rotation. But to me, that doesn't fix things either. It just repeats. The Big Four accounting firms are just going to do it over and over. So I think they also have to look at the business model and ask more questions and dig more into that. But that's just something I wanted to discuss today. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast to get future updates and check out the show notes for useful links. Thanks for listening.